Hi Kimber, this is Mark Pitoniak with my video presentation on dispositions. The first question asks, what dispositions do you possess that you think will make you a successful teacher? Hands down, my best attribute that I bring to teaching is my sound judgment and ethical behavior. Integrity also applies here as well. Will you do the right thing even when no one is looking? Pretty much every day I have to intervene in something because it's just not right. Ethics should be the easy one to use, as all you have to think is, do I want this to happen to me or my children? If the answer is no, you need to fix it. Let's say a student wets themselves just as the buses are arriving for dismissal. You need to change them, period. This is usually where I have to step in. The buses can wait. They'll just have to. Sadly, this is an area that most people can work on in life in general. As for judgment, just last week I made a judgment call the morning of a field trip to a baseball game. Have I mentioned that I'm just an assistant in the classroom? Having been to this ballpark many times before, I knew that it didn't have the facilities needed to safely take care of my students. I made the call that we were not going. The administration was pushing hard for my students to go on this trip, but I held my ground on us not going, as it would be unethical, and they finally backed down. The second question asks, what dispositions do you need to work on before you enter the classroom as a first-year teacher? The first disposition I need to work on is that educators should believe that all students can learn and should set and support realistic expectations for students. I believe that every child has something to offer, but can they learn? With realistic expectations, I work hard with all of my students on meeting their IEP goals, but I know in my heart that some will not reach it. Who wrote that goal anyway? Pick the letter A for a child that is blind? Yes, I do think all students can learn something, but the goal has to be appropriate for them, or else we're just going to be talking over their heads. The other disposition I need to work on is educators should demonstrate professional friendliness, warmth, etc. I get frustrated easily, especially when things are going against special ed students. Gen ed students don't want their boats rocked, and I get that. But it is wrong to not include everyone from that grade just to make your day easier. The last question asks, what does a professional educator look like, and how do they behave? What standards guide their thinking and actions? Let me start by saying that self-assessment is an ongoing process, and changes need to be made and reevaluated. This process should begin from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. I don't think picking a couple of dispositions does any teacher justice. Most teachers put it all on the line already, and like me, I'm sure they all want to strongly agree with everything on the survey. In the high-stakes world of Common Core and testing, a teacher has to balance what's best for the students against test. I vote for the students.